The great chamber of the Galactic Council stood silent. 15 years had passed since the human delegation walked out of those massive doors, and their empty chairs remained untouched. No one dared to remove them. No one wanted to admit what those empty seats truly meant. Ambassador Vortinak stood at the central podium and looked across the vast room. Representatives from 47 species filled the curved rows of seats, but his eyes kept returning to the small section on the eastern side. 5 chairs sat there, covered in dust. Human chairs. We gather today to mark 15 cycles since the departure of humanity from galactic affairs, Vortinak announced. His voice echoed through the chamber, but it felt hollow. Let us remember and reflect. The other ambassadors shifted uncomfortably. Some whispered to their aides. Others simply stared at their data screens, pretending to read important messages. Nobody wanted to talk about what had happened. Nobody wanted to remember. But Vortinak remembered. He remembered everything. 15 years ago, the Drathkai swarm had threatened the outer territories. These creatures moved through space like a plague, consuming everything in their path. Worlds fell silent after the swarm passed through. Billions died. The Council had faced a terrible choice. The swarm had offered a deal. They would leave Council space alone if given a single world to consume. Just one world, they said. One small sacrifice to save thousands of planets. The Council had voted. In secret, without telling the humans, they had chosen which world to give away. They chose New Eden, a human colony of 2 million people on the edge of explored space. The Council decided that human lives were an acceptable price for peace. Vortinak closed his eyes as the memory washed over him. He could still see Admiral Ben Carter's face when he learned the truth. The human military commander had stood in this very chamber, surrounded by Council guards, his hands shaking with rage. "You sold our people," Ben had said. His voice had been quiet, but somehow it had filled the entire room. 2 million men, women, and children. You gave them to monsters without even asking us, without warning them, without giving them a chance to fight or flee. High Chancellor Morath had tried to explain. "Admiral, you must understand. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. Your colony's sacrifice will save countless lives across the galaxy. Humanity should be proud to serve such a noble purpose." Ben Carter had laughed then. It was a terrible sound, empty of all joy. "Noble purpose," he had repeated. "You call murder a noble purpose. The decision has been made," Morath had said firmly. "The swarm approaches New Eden as we speak. There is nothing to be done now. Humanity will accept this sacrifice and remain a valued member of the Galactic Council." The human admiral had looked around the chamber slowly. His eyes had moved from face to face, studying each council member. Some had looked away in shame. Others had met his gaze with cold indifference. A few had even smiled, pleased that the problem had been solved so easily. "Captain Laura Hayes commands the defense station at New Eden," Ben had said. "She has 3,000 soldiers under her command. They will fight the swarm, even though they cannot win. They will die protecting colonists who were already dead the moment you cast your vote." He had paused then, and when he spoke again, his voice had changed. It had become something hard and cold, like steel in winter. "You will not hear from us again, but you will remember us." The human delegation had walked out. Every human in Council space had received orders within the hour. Ships launched. Stations went dark. Communications ceased, and humanity had disappeared into the black void of space. Vortinak opened his eyes and returned to the present. 15 years of silence. 15 years of wondering. 15 years of pretending that everything was fine. "We have received no communication from human space," Counselor Thessia reported from her seat. The Vorn collective representative kept her voice carefully neutral. "Our scouts cannot penetrate their territory. They have established sensor barriers that our technology cannot bypass. Perhaps they simply wish to be left alone," another counselor suggested. "Humans were always emotional creatures. They are probably nursing their wounded pride in isolation." Several representatives made sounds of agreement. It was easier to believe that humanity had simply retreated to sulk. easier than considering other possibilities. I have a report from our border patrols, Thessia continued. She touched her data screen, and a holographic image appeared above the central floor. It showed an empty space station, drifting in the darkness. This was a human mining outpost. Our scouts found it last cycle. The station looked dead. No lights shone from its windows, no ships docked at its ports. But something about the image made Vortinak lean forward. The station has been completely stripped, Thessia explained. Every piece of technology removed. Every computer core taken. Every scrap of useful material salvaged. Only the basic structure remains. They are consolidating resources, someone said. Typical behavior for a species in decline. Ow. But Vortinak noticed something else in the image. On the main hull of the station, someone had carved words into the metal. The letters were huge, meant to be seen from far away. Enhance that section, he commanded. The image zoomed in, and the words became clear. 3 simple words that made his blood run cold. We are preparing. The chamber fell silent. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Nobody moved. Preparing for what? A young counselor finally asked. No one had an answer. That night, Vortinak stood alone on the observation deck of the council station. He looked out at the stars and thought about Admiral Ben Carter. He thought about the rage in the human's eyes and the cold promise in his voice. Humans had a saying that Vortinak had learned long ago. Revenge is a dish best served cold. At the time, he had not understood it. Now, as he stared into the endless darkness, he thought perhaps he was beginning to. Somewhere out there, humanity was preparing. 15 years of silence. 15 years of mystery. 15 years of planning, and the council had no idea what was coming. Vortinak shivered, though the room was warm. He had lived for over 200 cycles, but he had never felt fear like this before, because he knew humans. He had studied their history, he had learned their stories. When humans were wronged, they did not forget. They did not forgive. They waited. They planned. They prepared. And then they came back. The ambassador turned away from the window and walked toward his quarters. Sleep would not come easily tonight. Perhaps it would never come easily again. The empty chairs in the council chamber seemed to watch him as he passed. 5 seats covered in dust, waiting for occupants who would never return. Or perhaps, Vortinak thought, they were waiting for something else entirely, something far worse than empty silence. Director Thessia had not slept in 3 days. The reports kept coming, each one worse than the last, and she could not look away from the growing nightmare spreading across her screens. She sat in the heart of council intelligence, surrounded by holographic displays and blinking data streams. Her staff moved quietly around her, afraid to speak, afraid to draw her attention. Everyone could feel the tension in the air. Bring up the colony map, she ordered. A young Velsheri agent named Kryn hurried to comply. The main display shifted, showing a 3-dimensional map of known space. Human territory glowed in the far corner, marked by the soft blue light that indicated their worlds. Except there were no blue lights anymore. Start from the beginning, Thessia said. Show me the progression. The map began to move backward in time. 15 years ago, human space had contained 47 colonies, 12 major stations, and countless smaller outposts. Blue lights had sparkled across that section of the galaxy like scattered jewels. Then, the lights began to go dark. One by one, year by year, the colonies had emptied. The stations had closed. The outposts had fallen silent. The map tracked the progression with cold precision. First, the outer settlements, then the middle territories, then the core worlds. Earth? Thessia asked quietly. Kryn pulled up the data. Last confirmed signal was 8 years ago. Since then, complete silence. Our deepest penetration scouts report that the Sol system appears abandoned. Abandoned. Humanity's homeworld, the birthplace of their species, abandoned. Thessia could not imagine leaving her own world behind. What could drive an entire species to abandon their origin planet? Where did they go? She asked. Unknown, Kryn admitted. We have traced some ship movements toward the galactic rim, but our scouts cannot follow beyond a certain point. The humans have established barriers that destroy any vessel attempting to pass. Thesia stood and walked closer to the map. She reached out and touched one of the dark spots that had once been a thriving human colony. Play the recovered footage from Outpost 7, she said. The map disappeared, replaced by a grainy video recording. A human man stood in what looked like a command center, surrounded by busy workers packing equipment into containers. He wore a military uniform and spoke directly to the camera. This is Commander Sam Mitchell, recording for historical purposes, the man said. His voice was calm and steady, but his eyes burned with something deep and dangerous. Today, we complete the evacuation of Outpost 7. All personnel and resources have been transferred according to schedule. Behind him, workers carried the last pieces of equipment out of frame. One wall had already been stripped bare, exposing raw metal where consoles had once stood. For any council species who find this recording, I want you to understand something. Sam Mitchell leaned closer to the camera. The council sold our children to monsters. We offered you peace, partnership, and trust. We believed in the dream of galactic cooperation. We thought we had found friends among the stars. His jaw tightened. You taught us what the galaxy truly values. You taught us that friendship means nothing when it becomes convenient to betray it. You taught us that trust is a weakness that others will exploit. He straightened up and squared his shoulders. So now we learn. Now we adapt. Now we become what we must become, to survive in a galaxy that sees kindness as stupidity and mercy as cowardice. The commander looked directly into the camera, and even through the recording, Thesia felt like he was staring into her soul. We are leaving nothing behind. No technology for you to study. No resources for you to claim. No knowledge for you to steal. When we are ready, we will return, and you will answer for what you did to New Eden. The recording ended. Thesia stood in silence for a long moment. Around her, the staff had stopped working. Everyone had watched the footage, and nobody knew what to say. Director, Kryn said hesitantly, there is something else you should see. Show me. The display changed again, this time showing a different region of space. The territory of the Drothkai swarm. The monsters who had consumed New Eden glowed red on the map, except it did not glow anymore. What am I looking at? Thesia asked slowly. The swarm has gone silent, Kryn explained. No signals, no ship movements, no activity of any kind. Our scouts entered their space 2 cycles ago, expecting heavy resistance. He paused. They found nothing. Nothing? Nothing living. Kryn corrected himself. The planets are empty. The stations are destroyed. The swarm's entire population has simply vanished. Thesia felt her legs go weak. She grabbed the edge of a console to steady herself. Billions of Drothkai. An entire species. Gone? Gone, Kryn confirmed. And there is evidence of battle. Energy signatures consistent with advanced weapons. Hull fragments from destroyed vessels. Whatever happened, someone fought the swarm. Someone fought them and won. And then what? Where are the bodies? Where are the survivors? Kryn shook his head. No survivors. No bodies. Just empty space where an empire used to be. Thesia turned back to the map of human territory. All those dark spots. All those abandoned worlds. 15 years of silence and preparation. They did not retreat, she whispered. They relocated. The truth hit her like a physical blow. While the council had laughed at humanity's departure, while they had mocked the emotional aliens for running away, humans had been busy. They had moved their entire civilization to some unknown location. They had built new ships and new weapons. They had grown stronger, and they had destroyed the Drothkai swarm. Not defeated. Destroyed. An entire species wiped from existence. Director. Another agent called out. We have reports coming in from the border patrols. Unknown vessels detected in multiple sectors. The main display filled with new data. Dozens of reports from dozens of locations. Strange ships appearing at the edges of council space. Watching and waiting. Never responding to hails. Never approaching, just observing. Get me a visual, Thesia demanded. One of the patrol ships had managed to capture an image before the strange vessel disappeared. The picture was blurry and incomplete. But the design was unmistakable. Human. The ship was sleek and dark, built for speed and stealth. No lights shone from its hull. No identification markings gave away its name or purpose. It looked like a shadow given physical form, a piece of the void itself. They are watching us, Kryn said, gathering information. Thesia nodded slowly. She thought about Commander Sam Mitchell's words. When we are ready, we will return. The Council had assumed that humanity had fled in fear and shame. They had believed that the emotional species would simply fade into obscurity, forgotten by the rest of the galaxy. Instead, humanity had spent 15 years becoming something new. Something strong. Something that could destroy a species as powerful as the Drathkai swarm. And now they were coming back. Director Thesia looked at the image of the human ship one more time. Somewhere out there, millions of humans were preparing for judgment. The Council had made them victims, and they had transformed themselves into something the galaxy had never seen before. Send a warning to all Council worlds, she ordered. Emergency protocol. Tell them to prepare for possible contact with human forces. What should we tell them to expect? Kryn asked. Thesia thought for a long moment before answering. Tell them to expect the consequences of their choices. Tell them judgment is coming. And we have no idea what form it will take. She looked at the dark map one last time. Tell them to be afraid. The emergency session of the Galactic Council began with chaos and ended with terror. High Chancellor Morath stood at the central podium, trying to maintain order as dozens of ambassadors shouted over each other. Reports had flooded in from across Council space, all telling the same story. Human ships appearing without warning, scanning everything in range, then vanishing before anyone could respond. Order! Morath bellowed. His voice boomed through the chamber, enhanced by the audio systems. We will have order. The shouting gradually stopped. Frightened representatives settled back into their seats, but the fear remained visible on their faces. The galaxy had changed in the past few days, and everyone knew it. We have confirmed sightings in 37 different sectors, Morath announced. Human vessels of unknown design and capability. None have responded to our communications. None have made hostile moves. But they are watching us. What about the Drathkai? Someone called out. Is it true? Are they really gone? Morath hesitated. The truth was almost too terrible to speak aloud. Our scouts have confirmed complete absence of Drathkai life signs throughout their former territory. The swarm appears to have been eliminated. Gasps filled the chamber. The Drathkai had terrorized the galaxy for centuries. They had consumed worlds and destroyed civilizations. The Council had feared them so much that they had sacrificed innocent humans just to buy peace. Now they were gone, erased from existence by the very species the Council had betrayed. They will destroy us all, a Thatari ambassador wailed. We must surrender immediately. We must flee, another voice cried. Silence, Morath commanded. We do not know humanity's intentions. Perhaps they only wish to demonstrate their power. Perhaps they will accept negotiations. After what we did? Old Ambassador Vortinak asked quietly. He had remained silent until now, sitting in his usual seat with his head bowed. After we gave their people to the swarm? You think they will negotiate? Morath had no answer. A communications officer rushed into the chamber, nearly tripping in his haste. High Chancellor, a human vessel has entered our patrol zone. It is responding to hails. The chamber fell silent. 15 years of silence, and now humanity was ready to talk. Put it through, Morath ordered. The main display activated, showing the bridge of a human ship. The vessel's interior was dark and utilitarian, stripped of all decoration. Everything looked functional and efficient. No wasted space. No comfort. A man stood at the center of the image. He wore a simple uniform of dark blue, unmarked by medals or insignia. His hair was gray at the temples, and lines marked his face, but his eyes were sharp and clear. "I am Captain Derek Cole of the Human Remnant Fleet," he said. His voice was calm, almost pleasant. "I bring a message for the Galactic Council." High Chancellor Morath leaned forward. "Captain Cole, the Council welcomes this contact. We have hoped to re-establish relations with humanity for many years. Perhaps we can discuss a path toward reconciliation and healing." Derek Cole smiled slightly. It was not a warm expression. "Reconciliation," he repeated. "Healing. You speak as if what happened was a simple misunderstanding. A minor disagreement between friends." "We acknowledge that mistakes were made," Morath said carefully. "The decision regarding New Eden was regrettable. But we must look toward the future rather than dwelling on the past." "Regrettable." The captain's smile faded. 2.3 million people. Men, women, and children. Families who trusted the Council to protect them. You call their deaths regrettable. "What do you want from us?" Morath asked. "Name your terms." The Council is prepared to offer reparations, territory, resources, whatever humanity needs to move forward. We do not want your territory. We do not want your resources. We have built everything we need without your help. Derek Cole took a step closer to the camera. "Humanity has spent 15 years learning, Chancellor. Learning to survive without allies, learning what the galaxy fears, learning what you did to our people while we trusted you." He paused, letting his words sink in. "You want to know about the Drathkai? The monsters you fed our children to?" The captain's voice remained calm, but something cold entered his eyes. "They no longer exist. Consider it a demonstration of our progress." The chamber erupted in frightened murmurs. Morath raised his hands for silence. "You destroyed an entire species," he asked. "That is genocide. That is a crime against all galactic law." "Galactic law?" Derek Cole actually laughed. "The Council hides behind laws when it suits them, and ignores them when it does not. Where was galactic law when you sentenced New Eden to death without trial? Where was justice when you sacrificed innocence for political convenience?" He shook his head slowly. "We do not recognize your laws, Chancellor. We do not answer to your court. We answer to the memory of those you murdered." "Then why contact us at all?" Vortinak asked suddenly. "If you only want revenge, why not simply attack?" Derek Cole turned his attention to the old ambassador. Recognition flickered across his face. "Ambassador Vortinak, my father spoke of you. He said you were the only council member who argued against the sacrifice. The only one who tried to stop it." "I failed," Vortinak said quietly. "My objections meant nothing in the end. They meant something to us. For just a moment." The captain's expression softened. "They mean something still." He looked back at the full council. "Humanity could have attacked without warning. We could have destroyed your worlds before you knew we had returned. We have the power. We have the means. After 15 years of preparation, we have capabilities you cannot imagine." "Then why warn us?" Morath demanded. "Because we are not like you." Derek Cole straightened his shoulders. "We do not murder innocents in the dark. We do not hide our actions behind secret votes and political convenience. When we strike openly. When we judge fairly." He held up a data device. "This contains a complete record of the Council's decision regarding New Eden. Every vote, every voice, every justification offered for the sacrifice of our people. Humanity has not forgotten a single detail." He pressed a button on the device. "In 30 cycles, a human fleet will arrive at the Council homeworld. Every species that voted for New Eden's destruction will answer for their choice. This is not a threat. This is a fact. What will you do to us?" A Thatari ambassador asked, his voice trembling. "That depends on you," Derek Cole replied. 30 cycles to prepare your defense. 30 cycles to gather your excuses and explanations. 30 cycles to reflect on what you did and why. His eyes swept across the chamber one final time. The judgment comes, Chancellor. It comes for all of you. And humanity will finally have the justice that was denied to our dead. The transmission ended. The display went dark. High Chancellor Morath stood frozen at his podium. Around him, the council chamber had fallen into complete silence. No arguments, no shouting, no political maneuvering, just fear. Ambassador Vortinok rose slowly from his seat. His old legs trembled, but his voice was steady when he spoke. We did this to ourselves, he said. 15 years ago, we created this nightmare with our own choices. Now we must face the consequences. He looked at the empty human chairs one last time. May whatever gods exist have mercy on us all, because humanity will not. He walked out of the chamber alone, leaving the terrified council to contemplate their coming judgment. 30 cycles. 30 cycles, until humanity returned. And no one knew if the galaxy would survive what came next. Ambassador Vortinok traveled alone. His personal shuttle crossed the invisible boundary into human space without incident. No weapons fired. No patrol ships intercepted him. The barriers that had destroyed so many, council scouts simply let him pass. They were expecting him. He had not told anyone about this journey. The council was too busy panicking, preparing defenses that would be useless against humanity's superior technology. High Chancellor Morath had ordered the construction of massive weapon platforms. Other species had begun evacuating their homeworlds. None of it would matter. Vortinok had studied humans for over a century. He knew that if they wanted the council destroyed, no defense could stop them. The only hope lay in something else entirely. His shuttle received coordinates from an unknown source, guiding him deeper into the void. Stars grew sparse here, far from the crowded center of the galaxy. The perfect place to hide an entire civilization. Then he saw them. Ships filled the darkness ahead. Thousands of vessels, ranging from small fighters to massive carriers that dwarfed anything the council had ever built. They hung in perfect formation, their dark hulls reflecting no light, an armada of shadows waiting in the void. Vortinok's shuttle landed in a carrier bay that could have held 100 council warships. Human soldiers in sleek combat armor escorted him through corridors of cold metal and harsh lighting. No one spoke. No one answered his questions. Finally, they brought him to a command center overlooking the fleet. Massive windows showed the assembled vessels stretching to infinity. A man stood at the observation window, his hands clasped behind his back. Gray hair covered his head, and his posture spoke of years of military discipline. He turned as Vortinok entered. Admiral Nathan Cole, the man said, introducing himself. I understand you knew my brother. Admiral Ben Carter was your brother? Vortinok asked. He changed his name when he joined the military. Family tradition. Nathan Cole gestured for Vortinok to approach the window. Ben spoke of you often. He said you were different from the others. He said you might be the only council member worth talking to. Your brother was a good man. I was sorry to hear of his death. He died 3 years ago. Natural causes. Believe it or not. A hint of sadness touched Nathan's voice. He never stopped hoping that the council would apologize, that someone would admit they were wrong. He waited until the end for words that never came. Vortinok looked out at the massive fleet. What you have built here is remarkable. Terrifying, but remarkable. 15 years of unified effort, Nathan said. Every human working toward a single goal. We had no allies, no trade partners, no external support. Everything you see, we created ourselves. How? The technology gap between us was significant when you left. Now you have surpassed us by generations. Nathan turned to face him directly. Desperation is an excellent motivator. When your species faces extinction because everyone else considers you disposable, you find ways to adapt. You innovate. You push past limits that seemed impossible. A door opened behind them, and a woman entered. She wore a white coat over practical clothing, and data tablets filled her arms. Director Grace Taylor. Nathan introduced her. Head of Human Strategic Development. She designed most of the systems you see in this fleet. Grace Taylor nodded at Vortinak without warmth. Ambassador. I remember watching your objection to the New Eden vote when I was young. You argued for an hour against the sacrifice. You called it murder. I remember. Vortinak said quietly. You were right. It was murder, and the council ignored you. Grace set her tablets down on a nearby console. We ignore nothing. Every vote is recorded. Every justification is archived. When the judgment comes, we will know exactly who is responsible for what. And what will you do with that knowledge? Nathan answered, before Grace could respond. That depends on what we find. Humanity has not predetermined the outcome of this judgment. We are not executioners, seeking excuses to kill. He led Vortinak down a corridor to a large room filled with young humans. Children sat at desks, studying screens that showed images and data. An older teacher moved among them, answering questions and offering guidance. What are they learning? Vortinak asked. History, Nathan replied. The history of New Eden. The names and stories of every person who died there. 2.3 million individuals. Each one remembered. A young girl raised her hand. Teacher, what happened to the Martinez family? The Martinez family lived in Sector 7 of New Eden, the teacher answered. Carlos Martinez was a farmer. His wife Lucia taught at the local school. Their 3 children, Maria, Sofia, and young Pablo, attended that school. When the swarm came, Carlos stayed behind to help evacuate other families. Lucia hid with the children in a shelter. None of them survived. The girl nodded solemnly and made notes on her tablet. Vortinak felt his heart sink. You teach your children to hate us? No. Nathan shook his head firmly. We teach them to remember. There is a difference. Hatred would consume us. Memory motivates us. Our children learn what happened so they understand why this judgment matters. They learn the names so the dead are never forgotten. You could have attacked without warning, Vortinak said. You could have destroyed the council in a single strike. Why give us 30 cycles? Why give us any chance at all? Nathan was quiet for a long moment before answering. Because we remember who we were before the betrayal. We were explorers, dreamers. We believed in cooperation and friendship. We offered our hands in peace to every species we encountered. He turned to face the ambassador. The council tried to destroy that part of us. They tried to teach us that compassion is weakness, that kindness is stupidity, that trust makes you a victim. His voice hardened. They almost succeeded. Grace Taylor stepped forward. We debated for years about how to respond. Some wanted immediate revenge. Others wanted to hide forever and let the galaxy forget we existed. But most of us believed in something else. What? Vortinak asked. Transformation, Grace answered. We could become the monsters the galaxy expected us to be. Or we could become something the galaxy has never seen, something strong enough to demand justice but wise enough to deliver it fairly. Nathan nodded. Mercy is not weakness, Ambassador. It takes far more strength to offer mercy than to deal death. The Council will learn this lesson one way or another. Vortinak stood in silence, processing everything he had seen and heard. The fleet outside could annihilate the Council with ease. The anger and pain that humanity carried was more than enough to justify destruction, but instead, they had chosen judgment. Fair judgment. The chance for the guilty to answer for their crimes. What happens if the Council cannot defend its actions? Vortinak asked. What happens if you find them guilty? Odor. Then they face consequences, Nathan said simply. But not extinction. We will not become what we hate. We will not murder innocents for political convenience. Whatever punishment we deliver will fit the crime, nothing more. He placed a hand on Vortinak's shoulder. Go back to the Council. Tell them what you have seen. Tell them that humanity remembers who we were before they broke our trust. Tell them that we have chosen to remain human. Even after everything, Vortanek nodded slowly. And if they still refuse to take responsibility? Admiral Nathan Cole looked out at his assembled fleet. Thousands of ships carrying the weight of 2 million murdered souls, and 15 years of preparation. Then they will learn that mercy, freely offered and foolishly rejected, does not come around twice. He turned away from the window. Judgment is coming, Ambassador. Make sure the Council understands what that truly means. The human fleet arrived exactly when they said it would. Ships filled the sky above every Council homeworld simultaneously. Thousands of vessels appeared from nowhere, their dark hulls blocking out the stars. Defense platforms powered up across the galaxy, weapons locking onto targets. But no one dared to fire the first shot. Everyone knew it would be pointless. In the Galactic Council chamber, every seat was filled. Representatives from all 47 species sat in terrified silence, watching the massive display screen that showed human vessels surrounding their worlds. High Chancellor Morath stood at his podium, his hands shaking despite his efforts to appear calm. The main doors opened, and Admiral Nathan Cole walked in. He wore the same simple uniform as his son, unmarked by medals or decoration. Behind him came Captain Derek Cole, Lieutenant Kate Harris, and a small honor guard of human soldiers. They walked with measured steps, neither hurrying nor hesitating. Admiral Cole took his place at the center of the chamber floor. He looked up at the assembled council members, his face unreadable. 15 years ago, this body voted to sacrifice the human colony of New Eden to the Drathkai swarm. The vote was conducted in secret, without human knowledge or consent. 2.3 million people were given to monsters as payment for peace. His voice echoed through the silent chamber. Today, humanity delivers judgment. No one spoke. No one moved. The only sound was the soft hum of the display screens, showing human ships hanging in orbit. Lieutenant Harris, Admiral Cole said. Kate Harris stepped forward, holding a data tablet. She began to read. Maria Santos, age 4, loved to draw pictures of flowers. Her favorite color was yellow. She paused, then continued. Thomas and Linda Park, married 43 years. They were planning to celebrate their anniversary when the swarm arrived. Name after name. Story after story. Kate Harris read them all. Her voice steady and clear. The council sat in forced silence as hours passed, as the weight of 2.3 million individual lives settled upon them. Peter and Susan Kim. Rachel Torres. The Henderson family. All 7 of them. Dr. James Liu, who delivered over 1,000 babies during his career. High Chancellor Morath tried to interrupt several times, but Admiral Cole simply raised his hand for silence, and something about the gesture made the words die in Morath's throat. Finally, after hours that felt like years, Kate Harris read the last name. Baby girl Rodriguez. Born 3 days before the swarm arrived, she never received a name. Her parents died trying to protect her. Kate Harris lowered the tablet and returned to her place. Admiral Cole let the silence stretch. Every council member looked broken, haunted by the endless stream of names they had been forced to hear. Names of people they had condemned to death. With a simple vote, these were the people you murdered, Cole said. Not numbers. Not statistics. Not acceptable losses. They were individuals with names and dreams, and people who loved them. He turned slowly, looking at each section of the chamber. Now you will hear the judgment. The council tensed, waiting for the death sentence they all expected. The Galactic Council is dissolved. Your authority is stripped. Your laws are void. From this moment forward, each species will govern itself without the framework of council rule. Shocked murmurs rippled through the chamber. This was not the massacre they had feared. Admiral Cole continued. Humanity establishes a new accord in memory of New Eden. Any species that preys upon the weak, that sacrifices innocence for political convenience, that murders children to buy temporary peace, will face humanity directly. He paused, letting his words sink in. We could destroy you all. Our weapons could reduce your homeworlds to ash before your defenders could respond. After what you did, many would say we have that right. His voice softened slightly. But we choose differently. Because the moment we start killing innocents for our own benefit, we become exactly what we hate. We become you. He looked at High Chancellor Morath. You taught us that the galaxy respects only strength. We became strong. But we also chose to remain human. Compassion is not weakness. It is the strength you never understood. Admiral Cole straightened his shoulders. Our judgment is mercy. Mercy for the countless innocent citizens of your worlds who had no part in the decision to murder our people. Mercy for the children who will inherit the galaxy you nearly destroyed. Mercy that we offer freely, even though you showed none to us. He held up his hand. But mercy has conditions. The individuals who voted for New Eden's destruction will face personal consequences. Their names are known. Their crimes are recorded. They will be removed from power and tried for their actions. Not by us, but by their own people. Humanity will provide evidence. But the judgment of the guilty belongs to those they failed to protect. Captain Derek Cole stepped forward. Any government official who voted for the sacrifice and refuses to face trial will be taken by force. Any species that shelters war criminals will lose humanity's protection. These terms are not negotiable. Admiral Cole lowered his hand. For everyone else, humanity offers something new. We will protect those who cannot protect themselves. We will stand against those who prey upon the weak. We will be the guardians this galaxy has never had. He looked at old Ambassador Vortenok, who sat quietly in his seat. Some of you tried to stop the injustice. Some of you argued for mercy when the Council chose murder. Those individuals are remembered. Those individuals are honored. And those individuals are welcome to work with humanity in building something better. Vortenok nodded slowly, tears running down his weathered face. The judgment is delivered, Admiral Cole announced. The council is ended, and humanity's purpose is clear. He turned and walked toward the exit, his escort falling in behind him. At the door, he paused and looked back one final time. We departed in silence because we had nothing left to say. We returned with strength because we had everything to protect. Remember this day. Remember what mercy looks like when it comes from those who could have chosen vengeance. The doors closed behind him. The chamber sat in stunned silence for a long moment. Then, slowly, the reality began to sink in. They had survived. Humanity had spared them, but nothing would ever be the same. Years later, a small cargo ship drifted through the outer territories, carrying refugees from a world destroyed by natural disaster. The vessel was damaged and failing, its passengers starving and desperate. A shadow fell across the ship as a massive human vessel appeared above it. Captain Kate Harris, now commander of her own patrol ship, looked at the cargo vessel on her display. The refugees inside were Thatari, members of a species that had voted enthusiastically for New Eden's destruction. "Captain?" her communications officer asked. "Orders?" Kate thought about New Eden. She thought about the names she had read in the council chamber years ago. She thought about all the reasons she had to let these people suffer. Then she thought about who she wanted to be. "Bring them aboard," she ordered. "Medical teams to the landing bay. These people need our help." The officer nodded and began issuing commands. A young Thatari child was the first to emerge from the cargo ship. She looked up at the human soldiers surrounding her with wide, frightened eyes. Kate knelt down to meet the child's gaze. "You are safe now," she said gently. "Humanity remembers what it feels like to be abandoned. We will not let it happen to anyone else." The child stared at her for a moment, then reached out and took her hand. Kate smiled and led the child toward the medical bay, where warm food and clean beds waited. Behind her, more refugees emerged from the damaged ship, met by human crew members ready to help. Silently, humanity had departed. Loudly, they had returned. Not as conquerors, but as guardians, and the galaxy would never forget the judgment they delivered. Not death. Not revenge. Not the cold satisfaction of watching their enemies suffer. Mercy. Mercy wrapped in unbreakable strength. Mercy offered to those who deserved none. Mercy that proved, once and for all, that humanity had become something greater than the galaxy had ever imagined, something worth remembering, something worth following, something truly human.